Do you know why some countries are rich while others face extreme poverty, despite having plenty of resources? It's a tough question, and the answer is not always simple. While some nations thrive with their natural resources and industries, others struggle due to war, weak infrastructure, and lack of access to basic needs. In 2025, many of the world's poorest countries still face these challenges, even though they have so much potential. Today, we're going to explore the 10 poorest countries in the world in 2025, looking at why they struggle and how they fight against poverty. Let's dive in. 1. South Sudan, struggling with oil and war. South Sudan, the world's youngest country, is rich in oil but remains one of the poorest. In 2025, South Sudan's GDP per capita is just $450. Decades of civil war have destroyed its infrastructure, leaving 80% of the population living in rural areas, relying on subsistence farming. Climate change also complicates farming with floods and droughts. Healthcare and education are serious problems, with more than 50% of people lacking basic healthcare and a literacy rate of just 34%. Despite these challenges, the people of South Sudan remain resilient, hoping for peace and stability. 2. Burundi, facing severe agricultural challenges. Burundi, a small, landlocked country in East Africa, is one of the poorest in the world. In 2025, Burundi's GDP per capita stands at only $916. Over 85% of the population relies on subsistence farming, but land degradation and outdated farming methods have made it harder to grow enough food. Food insecurity is widespread, and over half the population faces hunger. The healthcare system is underfunded, and only one doctor serves 40,000 people. The literacy rate is just 34%, and political instability further complicates the situation. Despite this, Burundi's people continue to work toward a better future through grassroots efforts. 3. Central African Republic, rich in resources, poor in infrastructure. The Central African Republic, CAR, has gold and diamonds but remains one of the poorest nations in 2025, with a GDP per capita of just $1,204. Years of civil war and political instability have left the country unable to effectively use its natural resources. Over 70% of the population lives in poverty. Agriculture, which employs 75% of the population, suffers from poor infrastructure and climate challenges. CAR also faces severe food insecurity, and healthcare is a dire issue, with just 4 doctors per 100,000 people. Despite these hardships, CAR is working with international aid and better mining practices to help overcome poverty. 4. Democratic Republic of the Congo, abundant resources, endless struggles. The Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, is rich in minerals but still one of the poorest countries in the world. In 2025, the DRC's GDP per capita stands at $1,552. The country's mining wealth is exploited through illegal operations and corruption. Over 64% of the population lives below the poverty line. Agriculture, which employs over 70% of the workforce, is hindered by outdated techniques and lack of infrastructure. The healthcare and education systems are in crisis, with high maternal mortality rates and low literacy. Political instability and armed conflict in the East continue to prevent economic growth. Despite these challenges, the DRC's potential remains strong, and with sustainable mining and rural development, it could see progress. 5. Mozambique, struggling with natural disasters and poverty. Mozambique is rich in natural resources like natural gas, yet remains one of the poorest countries. In 2025, its GDP per capita is $1,493, and over 60% of the population lives in poverty. The economy depends heavily on agriculture, but climate change and recurring natural disasters like cyclones and floods damage the infrastructure and displace thousands. Food insecurity is a major issue, with nearly 2 million people needing aid. Healthcare and education systems are underfunded, with high maternal mortality rates and low school completion rates. Despite these challenges, Mozambique is resilient and working toward a sustainable future with international help for climate adaptation and disaster management. 6. Niger, battling extreme climate and rapid population growth. Niger is one of the hottest and poorest countries in the world. In 2025, Niger's GDP per capita is $1,775. Agriculture, which employs 80% of the population, faces challenges from droughts, desertification, and unpredictable rainfall. Approximately 3.3 million people require emergency food assistance. The literacy rate is just 37%, and healthcare is a major issue with high infant mortality rates and widespread preventable diseases. Niger also faces security threats from terrorist groups, which divert resources from development to defense. However, Niger's young population offers hope, and investments in education, sustainable agriculture, and renewable energy could unlock progress. 7. Malawi agricultural challenges and underfunded systems. Malawi, known as the warm heart of Africa, faces extreme poverty despite its agricultural potential. In 2025, its GDP per capita is $1,712, and over 70% of the population lives below the poverty line. The country's agriculture is dependent on rain-fed farming, leaving it vulnerable to climate shocks like droughts and floods. Nearly 4 million people need food assistance. The healthcare system is underfunded, with only 2 doctors for every 100,000 people. Education also faces challenges, with overcrowded classrooms and a literacy rate of just 62%. Despite these problems, Malawi is working to diversify its economy and boost agricultural productivity with international support. Liberia, the aftermath of war. Liberia, a country with a turbulent history, faces ongoing struggles. In 2025, Liberia's GDP per capita stands at $1,280, and nearly half of its population lives in extreme poverty. 2 brutal civil wars have left lasting scars on the country's infrastructure, governance, and social systems. Agriculture, which employs over 70% of the population, is hindered by outdated farming techniques and poor infrastructure. Liberia's healthcare system is inadequate, with just 1 doctor for every 15,000 people. Education also struggles, with only 62% of adults able to read and write. Despite these challenges, Liberia's resilience is evident as grassroots organizations work to rebuild communities with international help. 9. Madagascar, a biodiversity-rich yet poor nation. Madagascar, famous for its unique wildlife, is one of the poorest countries in the world. In 2025, Madagascar's GDP per capita is $1,279. Over 70% of its 29 million citizens live below the poverty line, relying on agriculture and subsistence farming. Deforestation, soil erosion, and climate change have made farming increasingly difficult. The healthcare system is stretched thin, with many people lacking access to basic medical services. Malnutrition is a pressing issue, with nearly 50% of children under 5 suffering from stunting. Despite these challenges, Madagascar has immense potential with its natural resources and biodiversity. Sustainable development and international partnerships can help the country make progress. 10. Yemen, the devastating effects of war. Yemen is facing one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. In 2025, Yemen's GDP per capita is $1,996, reflecting years of conflict and economic collapse. Over 75% of the population lives below the poverty line, and millions depend on humanitarian aid. The ongoing civil war has destroyed infrastructure, disrupted agriculture, and created widespread food insecurity. Yemen's healthcare system is on the brink of collapse, and malnutrition affects nearly half of children under 5. Education has also been severely disrupted, with many children out of school due to the conflict. Despite these hardships, Yemen's resilience shines through, and international organizations are working to provide aid and restore hope. The 10 poorest countries in the world in 2025 face many challenges, including political instability, weak infrastructure, and lack of access to healthcare and education. Despite these struggles, the people of these nations continue to fight for a better future. Global cooperation, sustainable development, and addressing the root causes of poverty are crucial for overcoming these challenges. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Every voice matters in the fight against poverty.